So hello everybody, in this video I'm going to give a walkthrough of the Orion Identity Management system and how you go about integrating it into an ASP.NET MVC application. So in this video we're going to create an MVC application and just show you how easy it is to actually integrate your new application into the Identity Management platform. So we're going to start off by creating a new ASP.NET MVC application. So we want a web application and we're going to call it Orion Demo. So we want an MVC template, we want no authentication, and we want to hit OK here. So just give that a second to create. So the process at the moment is a bit more manual than what will be in the final version released at the end of the year. In this particular version, the actual libraries that you will need are not available on NuGet, and you need to add the dependencies manually, but it's a very simple process and we'll go through it here now. So the first thing you need to do with your application is that the libraries target the .NET Framework 4.6. So you have to use the .NET Framework 4.6. So if you go into the properties of your application, change the target framework to 4.6 and hit yes here. The next step we have to do before we actually use the DLLs that we're going to import in a minute is to update our JSON.NET NuGet package to above 7.0.1. So if we go to JSON.NET, should be here. Don't see it there. 1 second. So we're on JSON. There it is here. So JSON.NET. If we'll upload it to the latest stable version, that's perfectly fine. So that's going to update there now. Then we'll actually import the DLLs and I'll show you how to actually go about integrating it into the Orion platform. Okay, so that's Newtonsoft updated. So now what we actually do is we need to import the references to the DLLs. So we go add reference, we'll go to browse, and here we have the different Orion libraries. So the actual contents of each library is talked about in a previous video when I detailed the structure of the libraries and of the SDK. But I'll just kind of give a brief summary again on what they are. So the Orion Windows DLL is the core DLL for the Orion platform on the Windows environment. It's a portable class library that contains all of the similar logic for all the libraries that build on top of it. Then you have the Orion Windows Desktop Library. This is a library that implements functionality for the traditional .NET environment. So this is the one that you would use if you're building an ASP.NET website or a WPF application or whatever class library or whatever you want to build in Windows. Then there's the Windows Universal DLL. This is the DLL you use if you're building a Windows 10 Universal application and you're targeting that particular platform. Then we have the Orion Windows MVC DLL. That builds on top of the Orion Windows Desktop and Orion Windows DLL. And it contains helper methods and methods that simplify the usage of Orion and Identity Management in MVC applications. So it's the top 3 DLLs that we actually need for this demo. Oops. So we'll get the 3 of them there and we'll add them to our project. So now we've added those references. So now we can actually go about so let's run the application just to kind of give an idea of what's happening here. So this is a standard ASP.NET MVC web application that we're using here, and we want to add authentication to it. So we're going to integrate the platform into the website. So here's the traditional ASP.NET starter page when you create an ASP.NET application. We can have an about page, a contact page, a home page, etc., etc. And anyone that's familiar with ASP.NET MVC will know that that's done by controllers. So that's the home controller. And then there's different actions in the controller. For instance, the index action, which is the home page. The about page has an action within the home directory. So what we're going to do here is we're going to use the federation filter. So the federation filter can be applied at 3 different levels in an MVC application. It can be applied at a global level meaning that the identity management system must be authenticated on every single page in your web application. You can apply it at the controller level, which is what we're going to do, which means that all actions within that controller must have an authenticated user before they can be used. or we can apply it at the action level. So let's apply it at the controller level to start off, and show you how that works. So we use square brackets here, and we say Orion Federation filter. So what this actually takes, So what this actually takes is a public key, a secret key, an is optional boolean, which we'll talk about in a minute, and an application ID. So in a previous video I described how an organization goes to the Orion website, registers itself, and generates system accounts which contain the public key and secret key that we need. So I've already done that step, so we're going to just put these in here that I've already generated for an application I created earlier. So first up is the public key. In the example that we're doing here, it's dev demo pub. The secret key in this example is going to be this guy here. Is optional. So what is optional means is that it's actually optional if the controller is authenticated. So this filter will allow unauthenticated users to pass into the actions, and the actions can check if the user is authenticated if they so wish. Setting it to true obviously means that it is optional, which means anonymous users can pass through. Setting it to false, which is what we're going to do, means the user must be authenticated with the Orion system in order to log in. So we're going to say false here. And the application ID in this case is developer demo. So we're going to just put that in here. So that's it. That's all the code that you need to integrate the Federation system into your application. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So just one second. I have to change one thing here. So if we just go to the Orion website, so I actually was testing this earlier and I added permission for the developer app, so we just need to change that. Cool, so that's done. So now let's actually create, let's build a website and see what happens. So you see what's actually happened there. We've gone to orion.shanecraven.com/federation instead of our web application. But what's actually happened there is because we applied the Federation filter that we see here at the controller level of the home controller, when we tried to visit the home controller, nobody was logged in to the Federation system. And the Federation system, as talked about in an earlier video, is a single server on the website that allows applications to log in with single sign-on. So what we'll do here is we'll sign in and we'll see what happens. So we'll sign in here with shane7218@outlook.com, and we'll enter a password. Oops. So you see here now that it's actually asking permission. So the way the Orion system works, as we talked about in the registration video, is that in order for the user to be able, in order for your application to be able to access the user's information, the user has to grant permission to your application. So this is what this page is doing. It's saying that it sees that no permission has been granted by this user to your application, so they can't access your data. So this is the user has to actually grant permission. Here we display what permission your application is requiring, and you specify this information in your application requirements policy when you registered an application, which we talked about in the registration video. So let's grant permission here. So now you see we visited our website. We're now logged in and authenticated. So we can actually go around and visit our website because we are logged in. And just to show you that we're logged in, we can go into our MVC website, right? Go into our views in our index view, and we can just print out the user that currently logged in, their name. So let's just change this. So in ASP.NET, for anyone that's used ASP.NET Identity will know that when you use ASP.NET Identity, the user object is fulfilled with a principal of the user that's logged in. The Orion Federation filter integrates into the ASP.NET Identity workflow. So you actually do get the user logged in through the user, but you just have to parse it into the Orion principal. So we'll do that now. So we just need a few brackets here. So we want to convert it into an iOrion principal, the user object, and from that we have access to the user's information. So we can see their Orion key if we want, or the user's information. So let's print out their first name. Now if we refresh the page, you'll see that the name is Shane. So literally all we had to do to actually integrate is to add one line of code to our controller. So let's take it a step further. Let's apply it not at the controller level. Oops, sorry. Let's apply it at the action level. So just for the about action. And in the about action, we're going to say var user equals I Orion principal user. And we're going to print out your name is user dot first name. So what that'll actually do is that will only apply the authentication requirement to the about method. So we actually should get an exception here when we try and open this website now. So you see we got an exception because the user is no longer logged in on the index action. So that's what I'm trying to show you there, because when you see before it was applied at the controller level and it worked on the index action, the about action and the context action. But now we've just applied it to the about action, so we don't have access to the user inside of the index action. So let's just take out this line of code here and we should be good to go. So the user can visit this action without being authenticated. Being able to apply it at the two different levels is very important because it's oftentimes that you will want only authentication on certain actions within a controller. So your name is Shane. So again, looking at the code, how simple it was to actually integrate, we had a federation filter with our public key, our secret key, our is optional boolean, and our developer demo. So that's it for me. Thanks very much for watching. The next video we will talk more about how you integrate the federation filter into the web API. Thank you.